hope everyone's been having a great 4th of July. Here in America, we're celebrating, of course, our birth, the national birth of America. And I've been watching a little bit of the parade on the internet. I say, what, right side broadcasting network, they've been showing it. And I know later on the president's going to speak, and I hope to see that. I did get to hear Ann Widdecombe speak in the EU Parliament today, and she was on fire. I'm calling her Betsy Ann Widdecombe now. What a character. I always like to hear her speak, and I'm also liking to hear the president speak, Donald Trump, and Nigel Farage. I always like to hear him speak. And if you don't get a chance, LBC has he does a radio show on LBC radio on the internet, and that's always very interesting to get his take on what's happening in the UK. Okay, but here we are. We're celebrating America today. I've got my flags out. I brought a couple into the greenhouse. The last week and a half, it's been very hot, and I've even had some trouble sleeping at night. And since I haven't turned on my AC yet, so maybe I should. Here, let's go through the greenhouse, and I'll just talk a little bit about what's happening. I don't know if my flags made it into my initial opening ceremony, but you might notice that things in the greenhouse have got a little bit thinner. I planted a whole bunch of stuff out this week back in the secret garden, and look at this. This basil plant is, of course I need to add some water to it, but it's going to seed so quick. It may be too late to extend its life very much more. I could cut off the seed pods, and it might pop back. And I'm planning on planting this out and see if that helps. But that basil is looking like it's dying on me. Now I meant to plant all of my pumpkins out, but it looks like I missed one. But that's okay. I've got other area back there that I can plant it in. So you can see I still got a few tomatoes and some borage and bok choy, but I planted out a number, and I also planted out a number of flowers. And maybe they're not much to look at, and you can see I did finally pick those onions. I don't know, but I got a couple trays drying out, and that's beautiful. Those are some beautiful onions for me. You see, look, see how beautiful that is? That's one of the nicer ones. But I'm just letting them dangle out on those trays. So that's something that happened this week. And even that basil plant, you can see, is going to seed. But you can see the water on the plants, especially on the lettuce there. Butter Crunch? I got the name now. Butter Crunch lettuce, and that's my favorite. Like I said, we did get a ½ inch of rain. And let's see how things are looking. I haven't actually walked around in the garden today. I'm so thankful for the rain. We were, like I said, I was even having to water by hand some. I hadn't watered in the last couple of days, though. I was hoping for rain yesterday. It didn't quite happen, but today we've got it. And I'm hoping for more rain, because in the back I noticed that the rain barrels are only half full. Of course, I had used up all the rainwater I had stored. And look at that corn. It's even turning brown there. So, here, let's see. Let me shake this. Well, it's not too bad. I should have some, be able to, I need to fill up that one. Now I need to come out here with one of these cages, and you see these tomatoes are now starting to become a nuisance in my path. And I'm so glad that this cucumber, what am I saying cucumber? This watermelon is growing. That is such a blessing. Now if I can get some watermelon on it, here I'm just training this up a little bit. I'm trying to keep it off the ground. Yeah, we'll train that one up too. So we'll see what happens. I haven't ever did I think that's a 30-gallon container, and I put a cage over the top of it. So here, I'm trying to not sneak through here. So some tomatoes, you can see they're coming on. I had one tomato I gave that turned red, I gave to my neighbor. So looky there, we've got a tomato turning red there. Can you see it? Oh, I'm getting water on my camera. And I've had a few cucumbers this week, but I'm not seeing one right now. I've got the flowers going. It's a beautiful bush, or vine, I guess. Looks like these peas, some of these peas are going, and you can see the weeds. I need to come and weed everything. I've done a little weeding, not a lot. I've been working mostly in the back on the secret garden. Now you can see half of that one potato bed I dug up. You see there? And I got some beautiful potatoes from that, and I've made at least one meal from them, and I have a picture that I've taken of the potatoes in a bowl. So, but you can see I still have half. I decided that those other potatoes were still growing because you see how that's still very green. So I've decided to leave that for another couple of weeks. And but those are beautiful potatoes. My nephew had posted a video of a bowl of potatoes he had harvested, and I think that got me going. So look at this. It's starting to become a wall of green beans, and you can see I need to harvest some. You see this? Look at this. Can you see that? That's a beautiful bean. And then there's a few up there. Now there's not tons of beans on here yet, but there's enough to, there's enough to pick a quart or so. Now these watermelons are starting to spread out. Look at that. I guess I'm gonna just throw him over like this, right on top of the rutabaga. So we'll see if we get some watermelons from here, and that's kind of odd. We'll see what becomes of that. Okay, again, we've got some cantaloupe and cucumber vines coming out of these containers. Now I have been watering these pretty consistently. Well, maybe I did skip a couple days, but I've been watering my pots more than the ground, because I figured that the pots needed more water because they could, dry out easier. Maybe I'm wrong on that thought, but that's been my thinking. So look at that. That's beautiful. Are there any cucumbers in there? Now I did get, like I said, I have had a couple of cucumbers. Now, in a week, I'm going to have lots of cucumbers everywhere. Let's walk through here. So I did come out. I did plant a couple more peppers out here. I had one of my peppers die on me. And I think it's because when I first built this raised bed, I put a cloth, you know, one of those lawn cloths that allows water to through and keeps roots from going through underneath. And it prevented my pepper from going deep enough in it. I think it killed it. But I punched holes in that cloth for these other peppers I planted. You see the flower I planted there? So it's not doing too bad. Now this is where I've been getting my cucumbers, at least a couple of them. Oh, that's a beautiful one. Look at that. Can you see that? I'm gonna. So that's a beautiful eaten cucumber. So I got one cucumber out here. That's not bad. And you can see those onions there. I haven't harvested them, and they're getting bigger and bigger. Now, the truth is the plants out here further away I don't water them as much because it's, you know, I carry my water in containers. So they get less water. But look at that. Yet it's doing the best. Of course, I think they get more sunlight out here. So I'm very pleased. And this is where I've picked a number of squash. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some in here. I have a number of squash in on my table. Yellow squash, they're beautiful. You can cook them or you can eat them raw if they're young and tender. And that's, of course, that one's a little too small. So there's a couple of squash, and I don't know what killed that squash there. But I'm just glad to see these other squash doing so well. Oh, can you see that? Now, if I had a little knife, I would cut it, or scissors, but if you just twirl it, that's perfect. Hey, Eric, you want a squash?
Yeah.
Here, take this one. I've got a couple inside. Those Ellis Craig onions, man, they look beautiful. I haven't had them. And you can see the tomatoes coming on. I have one I can pick, so it looks like I can make a tomato sandwich if I want today. It's not bright red, but it's reddish. That'll be good enough. It should be real sweet. The first one that I'll have eaten this year from my garden, I did give one away last week to, you know, first fruits. Gave it away. Okay, that's the front garden. So here we are in the backyard. That cucumber is really taken off. There is one cantaloupe on the bottom there, but look at that. I've added another side wire to the side. You see it there? I just added that today. It's maybe looking kind of, the vines were spreading out so much, I wanted to go vertical again. And this is the back. You can see that. So a little bit of water, but we need more. So this is about, you know, 40% full, and the other one was only about 30%. So, you know, you can see the watermelon vine. That's really taken off. I needed to make watermelons though, not vines. And then there's cantaloupe vines. I haven't seen any cantaloupe or watermelon really, you know, start to grow. This rice project so far is looking pretty poor. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to grow rice, if it's going to take off. But I'll give it a little bit more time. That's another cucumber taken off. And I guess I'm letting it go across the ground a little bit more since it's a little bit more space back here. And look at that tomato bushes. Of course, this one's here is cantaloupe, but I don't see any cantaloupes on it. Now, I haven't seen a lot of squash or on these ones, and I was surprised that this, look, Can you see that? That's a yellow squash. So I thought I had zucchini. I thought all three of these were the same. And why this one's taken so long to produce, I don't know. But I have had a couple of, well, maybe it's not so much sun back here, but I've had a couple of zucchini, and I've got, on this one, there is one growing very slow though. I'm surprised it's not bigger. Because, you see it? Just 3 inches long. And on this other one, I don't really see any. But the bushes themselves are going great, and this butternut squash here, that's starting to spread out. So this is the back. Now I haven't done anything really with these onions. And obviously I didn't take all the tomatoes out of my onion patch, because I've got 1, 2, 3 growing. But I don't think, I mean, at least the other Texan onions in the front all fell over, and it was time to pick them. Now these haven't totally done that yet, so I'm letting them grow. So we'll see how big they get. Okay, we're now back in the secret garden area and the mustard patch area. Now, this last week, I dug out my my fire pit and filled up this. The funny thing is that the charcoals were still warm. I was wondering if I was going to melt my plastic container. So I sifted it and then I put them in there. And if you guys remember, this used to be tall mustard. And I brought the tiller back and I just tilled it into the dirt. And I think the same day I started planting. But I was a bit in a hurry. Now I brought back one of my watermelon, some peppers, some bok choy, some flowers. And then this area here I just left. This was I think that's kale. It might be mustard greens, but I think it's kale. So this area over here is very muddy. I'm not going to walk out in it. It's very clayey is what I meant. But I did bring some of the wood chips back and put it around. But this is the garden I planted. This is the mustard patch. I may have planted the mustard. Did I say mustard patch? I meant pumpkin patch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's at least 5, 6 mustard plants by the pole. There's 2 of them right together, and those came up on their own, and the other ones were from seed. And I still have 1 mustard plant, at least 1. So I'm not going to walk through there. Here, I'll walk around. So these are the cherry trees. I'm back by the cherry trees. We'll see. We'll see if I have enough sun for these to take off. But I planted, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 12 of those tomato plants that were in cups that weren't doing anything, I came back here, and of course that one there. So I needed to do something with them. So I came back here, and you see the little tomato plants. So I planted this area with tomato plants. We'll see. And then the pumpkins. See, that's a nice pumpkin. That was I had started that inside. And the 2 over there. So we'll see. The 1/2 inch of rain is very, very crucial. And since this is clay soil, I noticed that it seems to keep its water. So even though it had been at least a week since I had rain back here, a week and a half, when I was tilling it, it was still dampish. So we'll see. The thing is, we don't get as much sunlight. So we'll see if this becomes a great pumpkin patch or not. But it'll be a few months before we know. Now this is where I've been working a whole bunch. You can see how I've been, oh, what is that bird? Can you see it? So I've been clearing out this like crazy. It may not look like much, but all through here there were stumps and vines, and I'm almost, look at that, I'm almost down to the large vines. I guess my energy levels are petering off here. But I've been digging up these roots, and I'll dig up those roots. We'll clean that up real nice. And then I hope to find those big vines in there. I hope to dig up the roots of the vines too. So we'll see what happens in here. But I'm very pleased with how things are going. I'd like to cut down some of these, at least some of these branches and trees that overshadow this area, because I've got the garden growing. But this land isn't, this isn't my land. Even though this is kind of a nuisance plot, it'd been let go for 15 years at least. But still, I need to ask them about some of these trees, about cutting them down. Now that thorn tree there, I'm probably going to cut it down, period, because it's such a terrible thing. I hate those thorn trees. They spread out. But the walnut tree, the branch that goes over my yard, I'm going to cut down, because you can see it's shading. It's shading the garden some, but since it's going over my yard, I'm pretty sure they won't mind. But you see, I can't cut down all these trees, but it would be nice to cut down a few of them. But I don't know if I will. I need to talk to my neighbor. I hope you guys have had a great 4th of July. I hope you've enjoyed this review of the Hobbit garden. If you're thinking about starting a garden and you want to, it's not too late. My neighbor, just this last week, started her garden, and corn, there's still plenty of time to grow corn, and here is the right time to, I think they call it fall squash, but it's still a good time to, to start pumpkins and squash and different things. You can look it up online, but it's not too late to start a garden. And as you can see, I just started that the secret garden and the faith garden. I'll call it the faith garden, since the mustard has now been I tilled the mustard into the ground, but I just started those this week. But I'd had those plants already, popped up in my greenhouse. But I think you might be able to find some inexpensive plants if you look around at the hardware stores and things. Who knows? Okay, love you guys. Bye-bye now.